From the tense confines of a garage in Abu Dhabi, two Formula One icons, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, erupted with a response that reverberated throughout the paddock. The sounds of their frustration, annoyance and shock pierced the silent night of Yas Marina, revealing the darkness of Ferrari's season, widely considered the worst in modern Formula One history. But what did they see, feel and express that suddenly silenced the F1 world? Let's discuss it. It was the final practice session of the 2025 season in Abu Dhabi. Ferrari's radio crackled, and then Charles Leclerc's voice cracked, not from engine noise but from the frustration he had suppressed for an entire season. "The car has zero grip. Incredible." Those words weren't mere complaints. They were the cries of a driver who had been promised a bright future, but found himself mired in Ferrari's worst season yet. Shortly after, Lewis Hamilton's voice broke too. He remained calm, but the brutal honesty of a seven-time world champion was evident. "It's the worst year of my career. Not the worst car, not the worst results, not the worst year. Two sentences, two drivers, one harsh reality. Ferrari 2025 has collapsed." Ferrari's problems didn't start at Yas Marina. The roots of this mess lie thousands of kilometres away in a cold Maranello boardroom, where a decision was made that would haunt the team throughout the season. Early in the season, team boss Frédéric Vasseur saw McLaren accelerating at a pace that even internal analysts couldn't explain. The gap widened every week. All the data pointed to one grim conclusion: there was no realistic scenario for quickly turning things around. So, an extreme decision was made. Ferrari halted all development of the SF25 and shifted its focus entirely to the 2026 car. The consequences went far beyond halting aerodynamic updates. The most experienced engineers, valuable hours in the wind tunnel, the simulation department and even the reserve power supply were all diverted to the new regulations project. Logically, this move made sense. If they couldn't win this season, Ferrari at least wanted to secure a lead as the new era began. However, in human terms, the decision turned into a silent disaster. Ferrari forgot to consider the psychological cost of giving up too soon, a factor that can't be measured by performance charts or telemetry sensors. The mechanics felt lost, the drivers lost hope, and the team atmosphere began to reflect the idea that the season was over before it began. This was the small spark that would turn into a full-blown storm in Abu Dhabi. Imagine Lewis Hamilton. After 12 years at Mercedes, he left with the prospect of 8 titles and renewed hope at the end of his golden career. Ferrari welcomed him with big promises, an aggressive project, rapid development every 2 weeks, and total support to build a winning car. But the reality he encountered in Maranello was a hammer blow to his hopes. The promised aerodynamic updates were nowhere to be found, as was the major upgrade package that should have been a key weapon. There was no significant evolution in the car either. All that remained was a long silence, internal confusion, and a car that was just as terrible from Bahrain to Abu Dhabi. While McLaren, Mercedes and Red Bull continued to refine their cars, Ferrari stalled, seemingly lost in their most difficult season yet. Hamilton, a speed icon and 7-time world champion, was forced to battle with a machine that could not keep up with his rivals. For the first time in his Formula One career, he went an entire season without a podium finish. It was a major setback in the journey of a legend, and a bitter irony of a red dream turned to nothing. For Charles Leclerc, the 2025 season was more than just a series of technical disappointments. It was an emotional wound that shattered the hopes he'd built up over the years. He had waited 6 seasons for Ferrari to deliver a consistently reliable car that would allow him to compete at the front of the pack without feeling anxious at every corner exit. But the reality he encountered was far from that. Week after week, the SF25 displayed an unpredictable disposition. The car frequently lost its grip, with tyre degradation so severe that it instantly ruined his racing rhythm. The rear wheels felt like they were floating, never truly gripping the asphalt, and the car's behaviour fluctuated as if Ferrari were bringing a different engine every weekend. Even after 22 races, the mystery of the SF25 remained unsolved. for Leclerc and the engineers working around the clock alike. Leclerc, once known for his calm, steady and optimistic demeanour, gradually began to sound like a driver losing his grip. His tone on the Abu Dhabi radio broadcast wasn't just a complaint. It was the culmination of a driver's frustration at waiting too long for a car that never arrived. Behind the scenes, the mood at Ferrari was far darker than it appeared on camera. Technical meetings no longer discussed solutions, but instead turned into lengthy sessions filled with breakdown after breakdown. Simulations, which were usually their primary weapon, offered no direction. It was as if every piece of data confirmed that this year's car was beyond salvage. Wind tunnel testing was completely diverted to the 2026 project, leaving the 2025 car half-finished and abandoned. The drivers were left on the track with no guidance, struggling alone with a package that was clearly incapable of competing. In an interview, Fred Vasseur made an honest and startling admission. When you have 18 races left and know there will be no improvement, it's difficult to manage psychologically. That statement sums it all up. This wasn't just a technical failure, it was a collective mental collapse, an erosion of confidence that spread from the boardroom to the pit wall. Everyone at Maranello knew the season was essentially over long before they arrived in Abu Dhabi, and that reality slowly but surely took a toll on the team's morale. Numbers never lie, and the 2025 season was one of Ferrari's most brutal. They finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship without a single victory, a heroic finale, or even a podium finish for Lewis Hamilton. However, the greatest damage wasn't reflected in the standings. The damage lay much deeper, at the core of the team itself. Trust, the most fragile component in Formula One, was shattered. Technical conflicts began to surface. Engineers worked themselves nearly to exhaustion, while the operations and development departments blamed each other for repeated failures. Meanwhile, the drivers lost their way, no longer understanding where this massive project was headed. Ferrari 2025 was no longer a cohesive team. Instead of looking for solutions, it had become two opposing factions busy looking for scapegoats. It was a season that was not only embarrassing, but also painful, for a great name that should have remained strong. Abu Dhabi 2025 is more than just the final race on the calendar. The iconic Ferrari, which has been held up for decades as a symbol of speed, tradition, and elegance, could collapse like a mediocre team that has lost its way. Behind the seemingly calm garage, the atmosphere is far more dire. Every level of the team is at stake, from the sleepless mechanics and engineers running out of ideas to the two world champion drivers at a loss for words. Can Ferrari truly rise from the ashes of this collapse? Or will the 2026 season be just another chapter of empty promises ending in disappointment? Leave your thoughts below.